Hi guys, Veronica Spriggs here, and today we're going to be creating this super fantastic Halloween invitation using my collection, Mistress of the Macabre, and the all-new Mistress of the Macabre, Dead Again, along with a few awesome fonts. So, we're going to be creating this invitation as an 8.5 by 11 standard size paper. But I'm also going to show you how to easily convert it to a 5 by 7 card as is shown in this preview here. For this tutorial, you will be needing my Mistress of the Macabre embellishment sets. Now this is available along with the collection. If you want to use some of the papers in that collection, then you would probably just get the collection, or you can just get this embellishment pack. As well, you are going to be needing the Mistress of the Macabre Dead Again Collection Mini. For this project, I'm going to be using 5 fonts, all of which I already have activated in my fonts program. So you can go to the websites that I am going to be listing in the description below and download all of these fonts, or you can choose some fonts of your own if that's what you desire. The fonts I'm going to be using are a Lolita Scorned, I Still Know, Intro Head R, Intro Rust G, and Little Trouble Girl. Now that you have everything that you need, let's get started. So to begin, what you would need to do is just create a new file, 8.5 by 11, 300 resolution, and we're going to make sure you have a transparent background. So I just click OK, and we're going to begin typing our fonts. Now, I'm not even going to show you how to type fonts because I'm sure you already know that. What I'm going to do is show you instead the fonts that I used and how I use them. Start our very first font right here, and that's Happy. Okay, and you can see the font that I'm using for that is I Still Know. The text size or the point size is a 72, and I have my font set on strong. So basically you would come here and just type out Happy. Simple, right? So you have Happy, which is I Still Know, at 72 points, and it's strong. And then we're going to go to Halloween, and that is Intro Rust G, and it's typed at 60 points, and it's also strong. Join Us If You Dare, a Lolita Scorned, 48 points and strong. Okay, now here is where it starts to get interesting. So we have for some spooks and some scares, which is going to be typed on a path. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this off really quick so that you can't see that. And I'm also going to delete this path so that I can show you exactly how to type your text on a pad. So the very first thing I'm going to do is select my elliptical tool. Now you can also type this circle with your ellipse tool in your shape tool, but I'm going to use the circle because it's going to allow me to give a fixed size. This would normally be set to normal. Normal. Okay, but what we're going to do is change it to fixed size, and I already have this typed in at 622 pixels by 622 pixels. So if I come here, make a new layer, and just click anywhere here on this document, it's going to create that circle for me exactly how I want it. And then I just grab my move tool. Actually, I'm not using the move tool. I'm using the selection tool, and if I click on it, it allows me to just move it anywhere you want. So I'm going to position it pretty much dead center or around this text. Now, this text you're going to add in afterwards, so pretend it isn't here. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off. And I'm just positioning the circle pretty much center. And then I'm going to go over here to my paths panel, and this little icon here will allow you to make work path from this selection. So we're going to change that selection into a path. And now we are going to begin typing our text. Now for this font, I used Little Trouble Girl at 36 points. Okay, and then you see you just go back over here to your paths and click on it, and then your new path is available. So now I'm going to go to my text tool, and I'm going to click somewhere which would be right at the halfway point, and I'm going to say it's right there. And then I'm going to say, for some but I want this font to be black, so I'm just going to highlight it, click here, and change it to black. And then I am going to come right here, and if you hover over this, you'll see you have a path selection tool and a direct selection tool. So I'm going to click on the path selection tool, and then I'm going to click in here. I'm just holding it down and then position it so that it's pretty much centered. Once that looks good, you're just going to right click and duplicate that layer. It's going to say OK. And once again, highlight your text. And this time we're going to type "and some scares." What we're going to do is rotate that text, and to do that we're going to click here, this time the direct selection tool, and just drag it down, and you can see that now it flips our text so that it is on the bottom instead of the top, but it's also inside of the circle and we want it on the outside. So what we're going to do is go to Window, Show All Menu Options, and then make sure our character panel is showing. And then here on this very last icon, I'm not sure what that means, but you're going to just go over here and drag it. We're dragging it to the left so that we're getting a negative position. And once it looks about right, I'm going to say this looks pretty good at minus 22%. Actually, I'm going to go to minus 20. And we're going to come over here and grab our path selection tool. I'm going to click here until we see that little arrow, and then we're just going to move it a little bit until it gets back to where you want it to be. And that looks good right there. So we're done with that, and we're just going to come over here, and if you like, now you can delete that path or you can leave it. It's up to you. So with that done, you're going to come on the inside, and this time, once again, using Little Trouble Girl, you're going to type October 31st at 48 points. And then you're going to, again, with Little Trouble Girl, type 9 p.m. until midnight, or of course, whatever times you're using. And that's going to be at 18 points. Okay, now the next little thing that is just a wee bit different is going to be the For Tricks and Treats, the Best Place to Meet, 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Basically, what we're doing is making this justified so that everything is in line. So the font that we're using is Intro Head. The size is 18 points, and I'm going to actually go ahead and type this out again so that you can see exactly what I did. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and type that over again. For tricks and treats, the place to meet. And then we're going to space. So I'll go ahead and type some text. 1313 Mockingbird Lane. I'm going to, two things I'm going to do. I'm going to change the spacing. So to do that, I'm going to highlight all of my text, and you see it's set at 20 points. I'm going to change that to 24 points on the vertical axis. And then I am going to highlight just the 1313 Mockingbird Lane. And it looks like I've highlighted it all, but I actually have not, because if I had, it would look like that. Okay, so I am just highlighting just this portion. And now I'm going to come here to this AV, this one right here, set the tracking for selected characters, and I'm just going to drag it out until it's even with the top text. And there you have it. So this is part one, how to create the text for our flyer. And this is pretty much finished. All we're going to do now is create a new layer. We're going to grab our ellipse tool. And you're going to make sure that it's set on this one here, which is fill pixels. And we're going to just go ahead on a new layer and create a circle. Now what I'm doing is I'm holding down the shift key as I'm drawing so that I create a perfect circle. And because I'm using fill, it created it with my foreground color. I'm going to duplicate that layer, grab my move tool, and just move it over here so that I have two circles. Now, if you wanted to, you could come here to Spooks and Scares and rotate this just a little bit so that it's a little more centered. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn off that and position my circles a little more centered. There, that looks great. And for the decoration, the text decoration, all I did was come here, double click on your text, and choose gradient overlay. And I used a plain gold gradient overlay. If you don't have one, it's easy enough to create one, or just find one on the web and download it. And then I'll turn that on so you can actually see it. And now I'm going to right click, copy layer style, and I'm going to select all of my text layers, and I'm going to paste that layer style. And then I'm going to do the very same thing on these little circles here. Paste layer styles. Okay, now that we've got our text all done, let's start adding our background and embellishments. The first thing we're going to do is bring in our background, and I'll just drag that in and hold down my shift key so that it's centered. I'll close that, and then I'm going to drag this all the way down to my bottommost layer. And then what I did here is I selected all my layers. I just click on the first layer and hold down the shift key and click on the very last layer. And I just position this so that the happy is aligned within that frame. Then I duplicated my background layer and set it to multiply. And then you can adjust this to the darkness or depth that you want it to be. And I'm going to leave it at about 65%. And next we're just going to bring in our embellishments. And if you like, you can drag these all in at the same time, which is what I'm going to do, just to save myself some time. I'm going to separate this document from all the rest of them so that I can easily drag my items into place. So here are my books. I'm going to drag that. You're going to drag your items over, and you want to drag your layers on top of all the text. So grab your move tool. Make sure your show transform control is active. And holding in the shift key, I'm just going to position this to size. And once you're done with it, you can close it so that you don't have so many files open. And then my branch is going to go up here. Once again, hold down your shift key and drag that to size. And we're going to put this candle over here. Now this one is actually going to go down right on top of the paper. And we're going to change the opacity of that so that it blends in and doesn't obscure the text so much. And next is our raven, which he is going to sit on top of this branch. I'm actually going to remove some of this branch. And then we have our ribbon. And finally, this black rose. We're going to scale that down and set it right there. And I believe what I did here for this ribbon is I cut off this little tiny part, just using my selection tool to quickly select it out and delete that little portion. Control D to deselect, or Command D on a Mac. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that it reaches over to the pumpkin. And then to add some dimension, we're going to add some drop shadows. Now, because this is a dark background, we're going to go very heavy and very dramatic with our drop shadow. You can even set it to linear burn at about, I'm going to say 57%. And we have our distance set at 97 and our size set at 49. And go ahead and say OK. Right click, copy layer style. And then we're going to select all of our layers. And we're going to right click and paste that layer style onto everything. What I did also for my pumpkin, I just sampled a color from our background and set it to soft light and adjusted the opacity until it looked the way I wanted it to look. And now we're going to add that little bit of accent, and to do that, what we're going to do is come down on top of our paper layer, and we're going to create a new layer. We're going to come over here to our rectangular marquee tool, and you want to just drag out a rectangle so that you have enough space to border the text evenly on all sides. And then we're going to flood fill it with your background color, and it doesn't matter what color it is. You can Control D or Command D to deselect, and then we're going to go up here to the fill color or to the fill percentage and set that to 0. Double click to open up your layer style panel, and then we're going to add a stroke, and we're going to set this stroke to inside and make it about 10 pixels. Then we are going to add a new layer on top of that. Hold down your Control key, Command key on a Mac, right click and merge those two layers together. Then you can go up to one of your text layers, copy the layer style, and that's our gradient, and then we're going to paste the layer style. And then we're going to come in here, and again I'm just going to eyeball it. So what I want to do is select out the center portion and leave the borders, make them as even as you possibly can on both sides, and then just click delete to delete that. And then what I did is I actually went ahead and even added a layer style, but you can stop right there if you like. If you'd like to use this as a 5x7 card, all you'll need to do is go to Layer, Flatten Image, and we're going to go to File, New, and we're going to set our width at 5 inches and our height at 7 inches. Of course, the resolution is 300 pixels per inch, and we'll say OK. Now we're going to drag this layer onto our new document. We're going to grab our Move tool and our Show Transform tool and just drag this down to a good 5 inches. And you want to make sure that the width is completely filled, so that the document is going to be 5 inches in width, and it's pretty much centered. So all we're going to do now is go back to this image and undo that flatten so that we have all our layers again. And we're going to go to our bottom two most layers, select them, and drag them over. Bring them down to the bottommost layer. This time we're going to set our multiply up to 100 so that everything is super dark and everything blends in pretty well. Now, if it doesn't blend or you're getting too much of a harsh line, we're just going to grab the eraser tool and we're going to set it to about 200 pixels with a very soft edge. Actually, there's 0 hardness. And then on our layer, we're just going to go ahead and delete any of the harsh bits that may show. And just make sure it blends in perfectly. Now, because we resized it, you may want to sharpen it up a bit. And I'll set my view to 100%. And then we'll go to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. And you can play with this until it looks good to you. I'm going to set it at 89%. And there we have it as a 5x7. And 5x7s are really easy to print out. You can print them glossy or on cardstock. It's a very chic way to send out an invitation. So if you don't want to do the 8.5 by 11, you can change this up to a 5x7 quite easily. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if so, see more of my tutorials on YouTube. And remember, as always, to share, like, and subscribe.